Good day, everyone. This is Miss Chai, and we are going to talk about English conditionals, or the if sentences, often called conditional sentences. Now, is this the first time you've heard about this kind of sentence? Well, let's find out. In this lesson, let us answer the following questions. First, what are conditionals? Next, what are the types of conditionals? And lastly, what are the three basic conditionals that we use very often? Okay, to start this lesson, let us answer the first question. What are conditionals? Now, or what are the structures in English that are called conditionals? Conditional sentences is from the word itself, condition. When we say condition, it means a situation or a circumstance. Now, if we try to use this definition, then in a conditional sentence, there are two or more situations happening in a sentence, okay? Now, conditional sentences have two parts. We have the if clause, or the if part, and the main part, or main clause. Now, in the main clause, you can use words such as can, will, may, might, could, and would. Now, conditional sentences are actually expressed this way. If a particular condition is true, this part is the if clause, then a particular result happens. Now, that is our main clause. Remember, there are two parts in a conditional sentence. We have the if clause and the main clause. Mathematically, the conditional sentence may be seen like this. Okay? Now, if y is equals to 10, then 2y is equals to 20. Another one, if y is equals to 3, then 2y is equals to 6. So basically, if a particular situation happened, then a result will happen also. Now, a conditional sentences can also be expressed this way. If a dozen eggs is equivalent to 12 eggs, then 2 dozens of eggs are 24 eggs. See, another particular condition which is true, and then a particular result happens. So that is how conditional sentence works. Now let us try to apply how conditional sentences are expressed in writing or even when you are talking. I have here some examples, but before that, remember this first. The if clause can come either first or in the second part of the sentence. When the if clause is first, the two clauses are separated by a comma. If is normally means on the condition that. Okay, remember that. Okay, say for example, this sentence. If I see him, I'll give him the message. See, in this sentence, we see that the if clause is first, and then we have the main clause. And since this sentence contains both the if clause and plus the main clause, then we can say that this is a conditional sentence. And since the if clause comes first, then the two clauses must be separated by a comma. Now, how about if the if clause comes last? Does it change its meaning? Still, this is a conditional sentences because we have the main clause and then followed by the if clause. And remember that in a conditional sentence, the if clause can come either first or second. And since the if clause didn't come first, then there's no need for us to separate the two clauses by a comma. Okay? Always remember that there are two parts in a conditional sentence. Okay, Now that we know what are the conditional sentences, let's get to know what are the types of English conditionals. There are four main types of if sentences or conditionals in English. But we have the zero, first, second, and third conditionals. But in this lesson, I will discuss with you three of them. I will discuss the zero, first, and second conditional. Now, what are the three basic conditionals that we use very often? We have first, zero conditional. It is used to talk about things which are always true. Now, the form of this conditional is like this. If in the if clause or if part, you have if plus the present simple tense of the verb, and then on the main clause, you will use the present simple of the verb. Now, let's have an example. Okay, aside from remembering the meaning of zero conditional, the easiest way to familiarize yourself with it is to always remember the form of zero conditional. Remember, in the if clause, we have the present simple, and the same on the main clause, still present simple of the verb. Say, for example, now, do you think this example is a zero conditional? Yes, because in the if clause, we use present simple, and on the main clause, another present simple. Then we can say that this is a zero conditional type of sentence. How about the next one? Still, it is in a zero conditional because in the if clause, we have the present simple of the verb and then another present simple of the verb in the main clause. So, always still the same, and since both are using present simple, then this is a zero conditional sentence. So that's for the zero conditional type of sentence. Then let's proceed to the second one. We have the first conditional. It is used to talk about things which are possible in the present or the future. It is also called as the real possibility, meaning it will happen in the future. This conditional is all about the future. It can predict what will happen given certain other facts. We use it for things that will probably happen in the real future, or for predictions or a real possibility that this condition will definitely happen in the future. Now, this is the form of this conditional. In the if clause, we have if plus present tense, present simple, but on the main clause, you will use will plus the verb. Okay? Still, the same with the zero conditional. All you have to do is remember or familiarize yourself with its form. Now, let's have an example. Do you think this sentence is an example of a first conditional? Yes, because in the if clause, it uses present tense of the verb, and then on the second part, we use will plus the verb. Then this is a first conditional. How about this one? Still, this is in the first conditional, although the if clause comes second, but as you notice, still it follows the form. We have the will plus the verb on the main clause, and then if plus the present tense of the verb for the if clause. Then, this sentence is an example of a first conditional. So that's for the first conditional. And lastly, we have the second conditional. It is used to talk about things which are unreal in the present or in the future. It is also called unreal possibility or dream. This conditional is also like the first conditional because we are talking about future. However, the future, or the result of this condition will not happen, or there is no real possibility. In short, you are just dreaming that things will happen. Okay, so the form of this conditional is if plus the past simple And then on the main clause, we have the would, could, might, plus the verb form, the verb. Okay, now still the same with the zero in the first one. First conditional, all you have to do is familiarize yourself with its form. Okay? Now, let's have an example. In this sentence, if I married Mary, I would be happy. Do you think this is a second conditional? Yes, that's right. This is an example of a second conditional, because in the if clause, it uses past simple form of the verb, and then on the main clause, we use would plus the verb be. Okay? Now, another example, if I won 1,000,000 pesos, I could stop working. Now this time, we use another type of word or modal. Now, do you think this is an example of a second conditional? Exactly. Still the same, since the if clause in this sentence used past simple, which is the verb won. And then on the main clause, we used could instead of would, plus the verb. And since this one uses the same form for the second conditional, then we can say that this is an example of a second conditional type of sentence. Okay, so that's for the second conditional. So there you have it. But before I end this lesson, let us have a simple exercise first. Tell whether the sentence is in zero conditional, first, or second conditional. Let's have the first item. If you freeze the water, it becomes solid. What do you think is this sentence? It's zero conditional, because if you take a look at the verb form, both the if clause and the main clause are using present simple form of the verb. Now on to the next sentence. If I were you, I would buy that house. What do you think is this sentence? It's second conditional, because if you still remember the form, since this sentence used past simple for the if clause plus the would plus verb, then we can say that this is in the second conditional form of the sentence. On to the last one. What about this one? If I meet my friend Josie, I will invite her for a stroll. This one is in the first conditional because, remember the form? We have the present simple for the if clause and then will plus verb. Okay, so those are the things you have to know about the English conditionals. And again, for you to familiarize yourself, always remember the form for each conditionals. I hope you learned something from me today. This is your teacher, Teacher Jai. Thank you and see you again.